What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Dauntless Outdoors. Today's episode, we're diving out of Bradenton, Florida. We're leaving from Longboat Pass right here. We just got back from our trip down to Naples area, diving those towers, and it's like 10:30, so we're just gonna go out, have some fun. Might try and shoot some red snapper depending on how we're feeling and how far of a run it is, but we'll catch you guys out there. What's going on, y'all? Josh here. So this is my, I think, about fourth or fifth dive of the day. We dove a couple different parts of this ledge already, and we weren't really seeing anything too crazy, but this is still part of the first spot. And the goal here was to try and find some nice mangrove snapper or anything like that. But we weren't seeing anything like really big or anything like that. So kind of just chilling here on the bottom, looking around, hoping to find something pretty nice. And I had only seen like 2 snapper that I would have shot, but they were really smart anyways, so I decided I was going to go lay out in the sand and grunt and hopefully attract some. But as you see, it's not really going too well. I'm not seeing any like crazy fish or anything like that, so I decided I was going to head up here shortly because I just wasn't seeing anything that I really wanted to shoot. So I go to head up to the surface here, and I spot a pretty nice gag, but I decided I wasn't going to take the shot. He wasn't like crazy big or anything like that, and I knew it'd probably be easy enough to get close to with the pole spear, so you might be able to get him on that.
Hey guys, welcome back. Ben here. So I'd already dove around in this number a pretty good bit. I saw some smaller grouper, mid 20s, high 20s, stuff like that. Nothing fancy. And some really nice snapper, but I was kind of targeting grouper first, and then decided, you know what? After I didn't see any good grouper, I'm going to switch over to some snapper hunting. So I decided to land on top of the ledge where there's all these holes in the cheese rock. This ledge is actually so deep you can swim completely under the ledge with your whole entire body, shine your light into the back of the ledge and still not see the back of it. And it's very large, and there's a bunch of holes everywhere and cheese rock everywhere, so it's just covered with snapper, especially when there's this much bait on it. So slowly came down to the bottom, let this snapper come out of the hole, give me a really nice shot. I was careful not to spook him, so he darted into the hole. I was really, calm with my motions, and he was calm with me. So it's a great little tip there. Just be calm. The fish sat there, let me get a good shot. Stoned him, put my hands on him, took him up to the surface, and then that was my first fish of the day, and this guy came out to about 18-something inches. So after this, we kept diving around, just didn't really see any good fish here, so we moved out deeper. And then this was my first drop on a 60-something foot deep number, and you can just see bait was the theme this trip. There was bait all over on this ledge, and both times I saw a bunch of bait on the ledge, very lively. So I saw a gag sneak up under here. I didn't know exactly where he went. I could see, you can kind of see there's a tail of a bunch of snapper and some smaller grouper up in there, and I was just trying to get my eyes on the better one. But I decided to hold off on that dive. So I saw the fish go in there. I knew there was a fish in that ledge, and then I'd also seen one just cruising down the ledge. So I was like, all right, I got something to work with. I made my way on up the surface, went back down, tried to figure out where I hit on the ledge because it was still so silty. So I hit the bottom, and then I realized, oh, yep, that's where I was last time. Swam right over to it, looked up under there, and I happened to catch the eye of that grouper in there. And I was like, oh, there he is. So once I got my eyes on him, and I realized that's the fish I'm looking for, I aimed my gun over there, and then instead of thumb shooting, I kind of backed up a little bit and took a nice shot there. Hit the fish really good, tried to pull him out. He was not going to come out that way on that exact dive for some reason. I couldn't tell you why. He just did not want to move like at all. He wasn't going to come out. So put pressure on him. Fish didn't come out. Gave him line and made my way up to the surface. Pretty good dive there, 60-something feet. So I think I hadn't dove in a little bit, and so for me, I was feeling pretty good, especially in that dirty vis. So you can see there's another little grouper there. It's all silted up because he's kicked around. I find my shaft. I get to, start trying to wiggle him out, see what's going on, see if my flopper's open. And then I think I pulled on this fish for a little bit, trying to get him to come out. He wasn't really cooperating, didn't make any really headway with him. Felt him wiggle maybe just a little bit, and then just kind of try to keep tension on the fish. That's always smart whenever they're rocked up well, so I kept tension on them, and then I made my way on up the surface. And then randomly, once I came up to the surface, the fish just popped out. Sometimes they'll swim themselves out, especially if they're rocked up and they flare their gills. So that's what happened. He flared his gills and came right on out for me. That was my first good gag of the day.
Alrighty, so we moved spots. Ben shot some nice fish there, but I wasn't really seeing anything I wanted to pull the trigger on. So, as you see, I'm just chilling out here on the bottom. This is my first dive on a new spot. It's about 65 foot here, 66, depending on where you're at. But looking around, not seeing anything like crazy big, but I also didn't want to swim up to this C-shaped ledge too fast because it's a pretty small spot, and if you do swim up on it, you might spook everything off. And I was thinking about taking a shot on that fish, but he didn't give me like a really good shot, and I decided I would just wait and head up to the surface and hopefully get a better shot on a bigger fish. So, as you see here, I head on up to the surface. So now I'm headed back down. It's the same spot. Ben wasn't in the water yet. I just told him to anchor up because the way we typically check a spot is we'll have 1 or 2 people hop in, depending on how many people we have in the boat, and just keep somebody in the boat to drive around, because otherwise you'll spend way too much time just dropping an anchor, picking it up, and all that. So it's a lot less drama if you just have somebody drive the boat while you quickly check it. And that's why my first dive was a little bit shorter. Don't want to push it when you're by yourself. But as you see, I got my eyes on this pretty nice mangrove snapper. He's dipping in and out of this ledge, so I didn't want to shoot that rock with this new shaft that I have. I bent that one shaft on the Cabera, so now I'm using a pretty much brand new one. So I wanted to keep it pretty nice. And he swims out, gives me a good shot. So I decided to take it, and I shot under the ledge. Didn't actually shoot the ledge, but when I went to pull it out, the flopper got stuck on the ledge here, as you see. So I couldn't actually get that fish out in one dive, unfortunately. And this dive was about 2 minutes and 3 seconds, 2 minutes 5, something like that. So it was already pretty long, and I didn't want to push too hard. So now I'm headed back down. This fish is just right there. I go down here, make sure to have a hand on that fish just so he isn't pulling too hard or anything like that. And I start twisting the shaft. The easiest way you can get something out like that is pushing the shaft a little bit forward and twisting it so it's not stuck on the piece of ledge or rock or whatever you're trying to get it free from, and then pulling it back slowly and just kind of like jiggling it around, hoping for the flopper to like fully close. But it's a lot harder when there's 2 floppers in the shaft. Alrighty, so I just secured a pretty good snapper, and now I'm headed back down to the bottom. I was looking around for some more good ones, but I wasn't really seeing any that were like shooter. So I decided to look up under this ledge, maybe see a big one or something like that. And when I first showed up, I did see a gag here, and as you see right there, that's him. He's laying sideways up under this ledge. And Ben did just get a brand new pole spear, and he hasn't really shot anything on it yet. So I go back up to the surface. I know that fish isn't going to go out of there just because of how crammed up under there he is. So I head right back down to the bottom with Ben. I'm pointing out the ledge. Ben's got his new pole spear. He's getting loaded up. It's a roller. I think it's a 9-footer. I actually did just buy the same one. I've got a pretty cool video coming up about that. But as you see, Ben's looking up under this ledge with his brand new pole spear. He's looking around. He couldn't really find exactly where it was, so I made sure he knew exactly where it was. And looks up under there, lines up on him, takes the shot, but I think it just slid right over the fish's nose and loads back up, takes another shot here, and unfortunately that slip tip fell off, so it didn't do anything. But after that, we decided to move on, go to another spot. This spot's only like 45, 47 feet. Depending on how the sand is or whether you're close to the structure or not. But as you see, going down, and I'm looking out in that sand over there, and I think this is like my third dive. So I'd already seen some decent gags, but nothing like crazy. But I spotted a pretty good one out in the sand, so I decided I was going to go down, hopefully shoot a mangrove snapper. But if I didn't see any, I'd go take the shot on that gag. So I just set up on a little post here. I'm looking around, waiting for some nice mangroves and grunting. This is actually a pretty long dive here, as you see. So looking around, doing some grunting, but I'm not really seeing anything too big. There's some that are about 17 inches, but we already had a couple of them, and we didn't want to take any more small ones. So looking around, still not seeing much. So I was hoping to see a pretty big one, 20 plus, but there wasn't really any of them here, unless you were looking in the rocks, and I didn't really want to shoot that new gun into there. There were some decent ones hidden, like right in the cracks. So as you see, wasn't seeing any mangroves, so I go look over this this rock right here, and that gag slowly starts to swim away, but he just stopped because he was curious. Got a really nice holding shot on him, and of course I go to secure this fish before I head up to the surface. Not because it's gonna rip off or anything, I just didn't want him to get stuck up under a rock or anything like that. So make sure to grab my fish here and head on up to the surface. Pretty cool dive.
Hey guys, Ben here. So after we got to this shallower number, I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and take my second grouper of the day. So I saw a grouper behind this big boulder as I was going down the rock pile. I swim over to the boulder quickly, and I plan to pop over and see the grouper. Well, the grouper, I guess, got a little spooked and took off and then repositioned out in the sand and turned around and faced me. You can see him just barely sitting out there, ghost white figure. And I saw him reposition. I'm like, okay, he's probably going to sit there. So I made my way to the surface, got a new breath, breathed up, and went back down. And as you can see, the vis was good enough. As I'm coming down, you'll see one grouper going up under the rock. And this was actually a very nice sized grouper, but I didn't think it was the same one because it was a little different colored. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what was the original grouper? So I decided to look for him out where he was. I see him out in the sand. I'm like, okay, so now which one do I want to take? Do I want to take the darker color one that looked to be pretty good size, or the original one I saw? I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go with the original one. He looked better, and it was a really easy shot out in the sand. So I slowly sink down to the fish. As you can tell, I'm just not moving much at all, and very slowly when I do, just calm, you know, waiting for the fish to kind of turn sideways. Took the shot, hit the fish and stoned him, and then once I stoned him, I kind of turned around to see if the other grouper stayed around. I wanted to, you know, kind of get a little recon and see if they hung out so I could, you know, tell Josh or whatever. So pulled the fish on up the surface. There was no big Goliath grouper around or anything, so I wasn't worried about him getting eaten. So I just pulled him on up the surface. Great stone shot. My second group of the day and a really nice one. So after shooting him, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go let Josh know and then go film Josh. And so that's what I went and did. But there's my grouper.
Alrighty, so we'd already pulled a couple of pretty nice gags off this spot. So I decided I was going to go down and hopefully shoot another one. I had seen one on the dive right before this that I decided I was going to take a shot on if I could get a chance. And Ben decided he was going to film me. So this is Ben's third person view of me going down and tracking this gag. As I said before, it's only like 45 feet, so it's not anything crazy. But it is a pretty cool clip to watch. You can probably hear I'm doing a couple little grunts here and there because I did see one out in that sand to the left, but it wasn't the size of the one that I wanted to take a shot on. So I'm still Still being stealthy, looking around, hoping to find that one gag that I saw just before this. And all I'm seeing is some pretty small mangrove snapper, nothing really worth taking a shot on. So I'm just swimming around, trying to observe for that one, hopefully out in the sand, but I'm scanning, and not really seeing him. But right here you can see I spotted him. He's sitting out on a little boulder facing away, so he can't even see me right now. So I get a really good line up, take a pretty far shot, but ended up nailing him. There was no way he was coming off, but still I wanted to make sure I secured him, just to make sure he doesn't go in, up under a rock or anything and have to take another dive. But secure a really nice fish here. Awesome second perspective on this fish. It was pretty cool how it played out, especially having someone follow you. So couldn't be more stoked with how this day turned out.
So after Josh shot that grouper, I'd already limited on grouper, Josh limited on grouper, and so now I'm just like fun diving, just checking out the number. I decided to hop back in with the pole spear, and what I noticed is a flounder scooting along the bottom. I'm like, what the heck? Perfect target practice and a juicy little flounder, so I pop him, hit him right in the gills, get to test out the pole spear, the slip tip, and the accuracy of it and everything. And yeah, super cool. He doesn't look very big, but I think he was like 14 inches. And I believe they only have to be like 12. So brought him right up to the surface. Nice little flounder there. You can see that killer little gill plate shot, and the slip tip worked great, so I was super happy with it.
Alrighty, so we've already got some pretty good fish. We both have our limit of gags, and we just decided we were going to hopefully find some decent mangroves before we headed on in. So that's why I'm not going all the way to the bottom. They didn't really seem to like that when I did that before. So I decided I was just going to cruise around, maybe see one out in the sand or up in between those rocks that I could take a downward shot into the sand. But I wasn't really seeing any that were like crazy big or catching my eye. But as you see here in a second, I look out into the sand and there's a school of them passing by, like 3 or 4 of them. But took a pretty first shot on this one, still managed to land him right there. Take a pretty far shot, honestly, but I still nailed him right through the gut cavity out of the gill plate. And that's gonna be the wrap of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.